Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Zuckerman, and welcome to the special solidarity event of Literary Modiin, commemorating 2 years since October 7th, 2023. For those who are new here, Literary Modiin is typically a monthly author series featuring three authors of new-ish books with Jewish content, fiction, memoir, narrative nonfiction, poetry. But as you know, nearly 2 years ago, or 730 days ago, our lives, those of us in Israel and Jews throughout the world, were irrevocably changed. We didn't imagine, could not have imagined that 2 years later, after the slaughter of 1,200 innocent people on that terrible day, that we would still be in this nightmare, which I pray is soon coming, well, the beginning of the end. It's unthinkable that we still have 48 hostages in the hands of Hamas, that hundreds of additional soldiers have lost their lives or been severely wounded. And that's to say nothing of the suffering and death and destruction in Gaza, which we know to be vast. And I know that you all join me in the fervent hope that this nightmare will soon come to an immediate end so that Israelis and Palestinians can begin to heal and live in peace and dignity. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I'm in a WhatsApp group, mostly as a silent observer, called Poetry is Medicine, which was started for a very different reason, as a way to bring comfort to a mother whose 12-year-old son was dying of a rare brain cancer. But I think the intent is similar. Poetry is medicine to what the session is about. We're trying to bring light and healing through the written word, be it poetry or prose, and being together, whether it's gathering in person with friends and family, or for me in the agricultural fields in Israel, or in Shul, or at weekly hostage gatherings, or in online forums such as this. Being together is one way that's definitely helped me get through the last 2 years. And wherever you're listening from in Israel or the US or the UK or Canada, or wherever, I hope you'll come away after hearing these words feeling a bit strengthened. I'm actually coming to you right now from Chicago, not in Modiin. Anyway, each reader will speak for about 5 to 8 minutes, and then we'll say a few prayers and open it up for comments or questions. So I'm going to introduce, and if you have any technical difficulties, put those in the chat to me privately. Hannah Wacholder Katsman grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and made Aliyah in 1990, and now lives in Jerusalem. She writes and speaks about the life and death of her 32-year-old son, Dr. Chaim Katzman, who was murdered on October 7th at his home in Kibbutz Falit. So, Hannah, let me spotlight you, and you can take it away.
Hi. I just want to say that I'd heard about Literary Modiin for a long time, but I only came last year when Julie invited me for some reason to speak here at the memorial, and I've tried to come every month since, and it's really added a lot to my life, and I've met a lot of really interesting writers. So thank you for including me in that. I'm going to be reading two things. One is from an essay in progress. It's called Invisible Disabilities. And then I'll be reading a poem that will be highlighted. Okay. February 19th, 2023 was the day I lost my hearing in my right ear. It was also the day I separated from my ex-husband. I still avoid calculating the number of years I was married, but it was over 3 decades. I left on a Sunday, the day my coworker's Airbnb became available. I didn't have a plan for the actual move. I could have taken our car, but I would have had to have gotten it back to Petach Tikva, and the Airbnb didn't come with a parking spot. I wanted to leave when my husband was at work, but my son, Chaim, who had agreed to take me to Jerusalem before heading back to his kibbutz in the south, said we had to leave early. I have to get to work. In a recent video about Chaim, his friends spoke about how hard he worked. We could never get him to take a vacation, they said. At most, he would combine a day or two with holidays and go to the Sinai. And when we got there, all he did was read. He worked on vacation too. At any rate, Chaim didn't want to take a day off, and I didn't suggest it. I didn't have a better offer. In the middle of the night before I left, I heard loud noises. The city sends around garbage trucks on Saturday night to collect the Sabbath garbage, but the noise seemed louder than usual and strange. In the morning, it felt like my ears were clogged, like when you switch altitudes. but swallowing didn't help. Chaim helped me bring down a couple of suitcases, boxes, and a dozen tote bags to his ancient Toyota Corolla. His father stood near the open door of our apartment, his eyes angry. Chaim and I didn't speak with him except for the only thing I could think to say, that one day he might thank me. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I tried to act in the best way possible, as easy for everyone else, short of doing the main thing, which was staying, which I could no longer do. In the video, a neighbor of Chaim's from the kibbutz said that whenever her husband was away, Chaim would walk by her house just to let her know he was there. His presence comforted her. There was something about Chaim that day I left my old home for a new one that gave me courage. A group of activists from Masaf Yatta came to the Shiva. I hadn't known that Chaim often spent weekends at the village in the southern Hebron Hills. The young activists explained that they went to document and deter settler violence against Palestinian residents. They said Chaim came irregularly, but when they thought there would be an altercation, they asked, and he always agreed. In the picture they sent, Chaim is standing, tall and straight, with his mane of unruly hair, near an older man with a kafia speaking to an Israeli soldier. The group calls its activities protective presence, an accurate name for a role that Chaim filled as a matter of course, especially for me that day in February. We got to my new place around 8. I watched the illegally parked car while Chaim brought my belongings up the stairs. He refused anything other than a cup of tea and went on his way. By 10, a doctor was crinkling some paper near each of my ears and came up with a diagnosis: sudden acute one-sided hearing loss. He reassured me that in most cases, the hearing returns, at least partially. Readers, it never returned. My ex hasn't thanked me either. A friend told me that if she had lost half her hearing, she would have gone out of her mind. But not me. I was relieved, happy to be out of the marriage, to have succeeded in pushing against my ex-husband's will, which was for things to stay the same, and his belief that my feelings were skewed, that I was making a huge mistake. Losing hearing in one ear is not the same as having reduced hearing in both. 50% plus 50% and 100% plus 0% both equal 1, but they are not the same. My left ear is still sharp. My right ear hears nothing, and any sensation, they tell me, is not from the nerve, but something deeper. I know a noise is really loud when it reverberates in my right ear, but I'm still the first one to hear the early warning for the rocket attacks from the Houthis, and I had to give away a clock because the ticking annoyed me. In my current apartment on the first floor of a quiet street, I can hear the water running through the pipes on the Sabbath afternoon. All the life and troubles of the building, the city, the country, the world, streaming down around me. I have to tell people about my disability. If someone is walking on my wrong side, I can't hear the conversation. I'm fine talking to the driver from the front passenger seat where I sat the first morning after half my hearing evaporated in Chaim's Corolla. Since Chaim's murder, I have a second disability, invisible disability. Just like the hearing, I can't ignore it away or pretend. My life revolves around Chaim, his things, memorializing him, being a bereaved mother, and a mother of bereaved children. I can't go for very long without mentioning not telling isn't an option. I'm practiced. I can say it without crying in a way that will generate the least shock. Okay, thank you. Poem, please.
Second, I just need to find the share. Oh, there it is. Okay. I hope I laid it out okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's Alphabet Grief. It's based on a poem that I wrote in a workshop with Diane Zinna, grief writing, and it's based on the manic depressives alphabet. That's the prompt, but I'm sorry, I didn't write down her name, the author's name, but it's easy to find. Sorry, I'll put it in the thing. Okay, Alphabet Grief. Apocrypha. Chaim's story is adorned with anecdotes. waiting to be approved for the canon? Or is it like the Bible, whose books recount cycles of murder and war and death again, everywhere, every day, each loss an enigma of sorrow and pain, following us with fear that forgoes forgetting, forging gravestones, chimes graced with plants and colored stones in the shape of hearts, giving us hope for humanity, heaving aside the horror, letting us imagine justice and the joining of hearts together, knowing what? We don't know anything. We are lost, let loose in chaos, with no end, just mayhem. And murder that leads nowhere, not yet. Not yet optimism that can overcome and bring particles of comfort and quiet. Because we revert to ancient patterns, risking our children for revenge that sows mistrust and tramples our future, undoing, unending, uncaring, unnamed, untimely, unfeeling, unhappy, unrepentant, unmoored violence that destroys while we wait, expectantly. The youth are used up. There is no conclusion.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you so much. And everyone here is sending you all our love. I actually made a little part of your poem, giving us hope for humanity. That's certainly something you have done with Chaim's memory. And for those who aren't aware, I made a little slide. I don't know if you want to say a few words about this for a second.
Sure. So this is a project that was brought about through the Next October project, which tries to connect startups with victims of October 7th and after and the war. So I was matched with Cause Match, which is a crowdfunding platform here in Jerusalem, and they donated a campaign. So I reached out to Rahat, to the community center in Rahat, which had hired Chaim to do. Chaim had built 2 community gardens with Bedouin women in teachers in Rahat, which are still thriving. And so the campaign is still live, and we still need funding. Not all the funding that had been promised. It's not my project, it's the community center's project, and they've been getting their own independent funding. We're contributing as much as we can, and we can still use funds, but the tender for the center is going out now. It's going to be the first sustainability center in Israel. There's recycling and environmental and so on, but this is going to focus on use of resources, sustainable agriculture, and climate education.
Thank you so much. I'll put the link for people who want more information, may want to donate. And I know there's a lot of the ambassadors from the fundraising program on this call today. So thank you, everyone.
And donors, and many donors too.
Donors, yes. Okay, thank you. I'd like to introduce our next reader. Joanna Chen is a writer and translator. Her latest translation, Hunting in America by Tehila Hakimi, published by Penguin, won the Paper Brigade Fiction Award. And her book of essays, From the Edges of a Broken World, was published this year by Elsinore in Germany. Do you want me to share my screen with your poem? No. Okay.
No, not yet. Thank you. First of all, I want to say, Hannah, I'm sending you a huge hug. Hannah became my good friend in the past year after we met at several readings. I have enormous respect and love for you, Hannah, and I am proud to be an ambassador for the Rahat Sustainability Center in Chaim's name. It's the first time I've ever been an ambassador in my life. So thank you for that. I'm going to first read a short essay that I actually wrote especially for this evening, and then I'm going to read a poem at the end that Julie's going to put on the screen. There is a before and an after. I call everything that happened before October 7 my previous life because I have changed. We've all changed. We've all been impacted. 2 years later, as we await the end to the war, a return of the hostages, and an end to the killing and destruction in Gaza. Today, I appreciate what it means to belong to a community, what it means to be part of a group, a family. And that's why, with Julie's help, and thank you, Julie, for this, we are all here now. Solidarity, to my mind, is a sense of empathy for people outside of our immediate groups. The term comes from the French solidarité and gained prominence in social and labor movements, particularly in the 19th and 20th centuries. It suggests that people's fates are linked together and that by supporting others, we strengthen the whole community. By the whole community, I mean not only those in our immediate vicinity, but the global neighborhood we share with others. But first, I'd like to go back in time before any of this happened. My mother was born in Manchester in the north of England. Her grandfather, Eli Fox, who came from Tsarist Russia, founded a synagogue initially in his own home, Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue, it was eventually called. A relation of mine tells me how, as a little girl, she would look up at the ceiling of this first makeshift synagogue, which was painted dark blue and decorated with tiny little stars. When she was bored, she would count the stars that shone down on her. All this that I tell you now this evening is new to me. Eli Fox and his wife Mary worked tirelessly, not just for their own Jewish community. They actively helped refugees. They raised money for the British Red Cross and were well known and loved by all. I had no idea about any of this until a few days ago, when that same synagogue my great-grandfather founded so many years ago was attacked on Yom Kippur. I was, of course, shocked by the news, and I thought of my mother and felt glad she didn't live to witness a terror attack in her hometown of Manchester. Late that same night, a relation, Sue, texted me asking if I knew that the synagogue had been founded by my great-grandfather. I did not. I couldn't sleep that night. Her words kept circling in my head. How come I didn't know this simple fact about my own family, my own history? Early the next morning, bleary-eyed, I came down the stairs. It was still dark, but I knew where I was headed in the gloom. I went quietly into my father's room and took the silver wine cup, the becha as we call it, from the dresser where it stands. It glinted in the shadows. I ran my finger over the words engraved into the silver, Mr. and Mrs. E. Fox, June 10, 1923. And this, in fact, is the cup, if you can all see it. There you go. One second. This is the wine cup Eli and his wife Mary received for their silver wedding anniversary 102 years ago. Although we're not religious, we gather together to bless the fruit of the vine every Friday night around the table with our family using this cup. We are 4 generations together, ranging from 10 months old to almost 96 years old. That wine cup is literally part of the family. Eli and Mary Fox's presence had been in my house all this time. I think of my great-grandparents today, 2 people who asked to live peacefully among their neighbors, 2 people from my past who I never knew. I wonder what they would say if they could see how the world they helped build, the love they took in caring for others, and not just Jews, is being torn apart, and how they would propose putting it back together. In these past 2 years, I've learned the importance of family in my day-to-day life, a balm for all that is hard in this world. Now I understand the importance of those who went before me. I hope, in the spirit of my great-grandparents, Eli and Mary Fox, we can all do better to repair this broken world. And now, with Julie's assistance, we will read a poem called Broken World, which I wrote. Broken world. Life goes on. I get up in the morning, get dressed, drink coffee, check messages delivered in the dead of night, messages I already read in the agony of dawn, awakened by airplanes thundering overhead, by booms and thuds and counting of the dead, headlines, analyses, breaking news. Life goes on, like I said. People die, are killed. It is to be expected. 1,000 miles away, they perish. 30 miles away, they perish. There are already too many to count. But do you know that my moon is their moon? Do you see it rising? The missile falling? Keep it in your sights. Hear it ripping through the air mid-flight. You send me love, you add a hug, you assure me you're praying hard in between everything else. But prayer alone cannot fix this, the sky splitting open between one breath and the next. Thank you so much, Julie and everybody.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot to spotlight you as soon as you started speaking, but thank you to everyone who pointed that out to me. I'd like to introduce our next reader. Maxim D. Shrayer is the author of 30 books in English and Russian and a professor at Boston College. So I'm going to ask you to unmute and I'm going to spotlight you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Julie, and Shalom Kulam. I'm really, really privileged to be here and to be part of this event of solidarity. And I think we're all praying in different ways for the release of our hostages. I will read several poems from 3 of my books that have come out over the past several months. This book, Parallel Letters, which came out in Switzerland, is bilingual. This Russian language book, Vaina, which means war, which came out in Tel Aviv, and Zion Square, which came out here with Ben Yehuda Press. And the first poem is really a poem of rage at having to live in the literary and intellectual culture of Israel hate that sadly surrounds us. The poets of Hamas. The poets of Hamas bemoan the death of one of their own. Villanelles and sonnets deny that men from Gaza violated Jewish girls time and again in gangs with rabid zeal. They call it Zionist lies and smoke screens, bloody rhymes with bloody Jewish bodies. Terza rima of mutilated babies, cut off breasts, heroic couplets, slender Gazan stanzas by learned men who die to murder Jews. In Boston and in London, poets mourn their fellow rhymesters, how they guzzle down their martyred verse on X and Instagram, their ghazals of ecstasy amid the rubble, Hamasat of their chivalrous exploits into Israeli farmland, Qasaid to mark the glorious advent of Intifada, Marathi, where Israel always rhymes with death. In London and in Boston, poets spread their hatred. And I will read a Russian language parallel version of this, mainly because in Israel there are almost 1 million Russian speakers, and some of the principal supporters of Israel the world over are actually ex-Soviet Jews. And one of them, my mother Emilia, a veteran refusnik, is here in the audience. So this is for you, my Russophone friends, поэты Хамаса. Поэты Хамаса оплакивают смерть своих собратьев, англоязычные сонеты и виланели, в которых отрицается, что молодчики из Газы калечили израильских девушек, насиловали оравами с неистовым усердием, кровавая рифмовка, кольцевая кровавых тел, терцины обезглавленных младенцев, отрезанные груди, тоннели героических куплетов, прорытые поэтами, которые живут и умирают, чтобы убивать евреев. Поэты Лондона и Бостона скорбят по стихотворцам из Газы, с упоением цитируют их жертвенные бейты на экс-ютубе и фейсбуке, читают их касиды, написанные посреди развалин, стараются перевести их в васфы, где прославляются набеги на жителей кибуцев, насибы, где воспеваются бесславное начало интифады, и фахры, где восторг и упоение, где смерть рифмуется с Израилем. Поэты Бостона и Лондона разносят как чуму. Now, this next poem, which is called Zion Square, has something to do with Julie, which is that I took notes for it 2 days in May of 2024. Not my last visit to Israel, but the one before. And Julie was very kind to take me with her to volunteer at a farm. And it was a wonderful day. And then I came to Jerusalem and I took notes for this poem. So there are two Hebrew references here. One is Kikar HaMuzika, which is Music Square. And the other is Kikar HaTzion, which is Zion Square. We both are in Jerusalem. Zion Square. And the epigraph is from Yeats, a 60-year-old smiling public man, and you will see why this matters. In the earthly city of Jerusalem, I like to stay just a couple of blocks from Kikar HaMuzika in Yoel Moshe Salomon Street, a pathway named after the founder of 3 Israeli towns and a Hebrew newspaper, a descendant of a messenger of the venerable Vilna Gaon, who in the 1800s left Lithuania for the Holy Land and was perhaps my distant relative, or rather kinsman, on the side of my father's grandfather, Rabbi Chaim Wolf of blessed memory, who was peacefully murdered in the early days of the war. Orchestras played outside my hotel at night, and I listened to the music Jews couldn't leave in Europe. I felt sheltered by the might of the Iron Dome, but also the roof of party-colored umbrellas that hang over the street. Once the prey of tourist photos and travel agencies' brochures, now the sky of our small warring country. I looked up and cried for all my cousins in arms, but also for myself, mostly tears of joy and comfort. Music didn't end. Suddenly it followed up toward Jaffa Street, and I felt someone or something carry me, a Jewish feather, to Kikar Tzion. Next morning, as I waited for my muse in uniform, I got to observe a troop of teenage boys in woven kippot, black and white Jews who danced in sync and looked like pale versions of kids from an urban ghetto, vestiges of another world, performing in support of hostages, while girls in long skirts collected donations. Jerusalemites stood and watched, tired of having to care, unfree to let their war fatigue spoil the mood of unity. It was then, weaving my way through a maze of men and women toward the imaginary proscenium that separated the dancers from the dance, I saw a vision of the past. Or was it a vision of the future? I still don't know. I can only tell you what it looked like, head to toe, hat to shoes, spectacles to trousers, above and below, black kippah, black capote, black gartel, meant to separate heart from sex organs. It was all there to reincarnate what I thought my Litvak ancestors had left behind. He was neither tall nor short, neither skinny nor rotund, both red head and white head, eyes both blue and hazel, tousled hair, unevenly clipped beard, blackened fingers, hands in flight, conducting the performance of the universe. Who was he? A local shtetl fool or God to all his Jews? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, thank you very much, Maxime. Going to introduce our next reader. Caroline Goldberg Igra is an art historian and the author of several novels, one of which, Pictures of My Desire, will be released next week. Mazel tov. And she will be back at Literary Modiin in December, which is going to be an in-person and hybrid event, talking about her new novel. But for now, she's going to read something a little bit different than what we've been hearing until now. I'll let you explain if you want to. Whoops, let me take my spotlight off.
Hi, so I published this piece. I wrote this piece right near the end of the Iranian war this past summer. So it's called Red Alert, Finding the Light. Day 10 of the Iran-Israel war, 0 to 60. That's my heart pounding as I throw the covers to the side and pull myself to my feet. My dog, Belle, has jumped off the bed. The siren gets her barking, and that's our sign to move. She's our own personal home front command representative. Let's go, I say. My husband is up and out of the bedroom, putting on Belle's leash. I grab the bag that's permanently sitting by the front door of our apartment, stuffed with documents it would be difficult to replace: passports, Israeli birth certificates, divorce agreements, American consular reports of birth, and the cumbersome family tree my Aunt June diligently put together in Longham before she passed away. There's a little cash and less jewelry, but neither are significant. Everything that really matters is already running down the stairs of our building or going about a normal life in the United States. We've entered a new phase of the war. The attack by Iran has come after months of Hamas bombardment that petered out and then segued into an equal number of months of daily missiles from Yemen. We are well versed in our routine when it comes to sirens. In that regard, nothing has changed, except everything. This attack isn't like anything we've experienced. All that time spent ducking missiles, taking cover now and then in our shelter, should have prepared us, but it didn't. We've jumped from an understood nightmare to all-out terror. It starts with the noise. When ballistic missiles fly directly over your house, it's deafening. I imagine a plane landing directly on my head. The immediate follow-up to these noises are the explosions. Not the loud, dull bangs of missiles intercepted high in the sky by Israeli defense mechanisms, something frightening enough on its own, but a sound that, again, we've gotten used to. But a new metallic crackle, louder and sharper, that indicates impact. There isn't one person in the shelter of my small apartment building who doesn't physically react. Those holding children pull them in closer, tucking their heads into moist necklines. Couples lean toward one another. Families cluster as groups on the collection of chairs that have been brought in to make handling this blitz more comfortable. One or two of the children gathered, maybe even an adult, lets out a gasp. This is terrifying for all of us. Shock melts quickly into speculation, fueled by frantic searches on the internet, regarding the location of what was for sure a direct hit, very close to us. Addresses, specific buildings, and neighborhoods are exchanged, and then nervous, empty chatter takes over. Subjects are benign and include the presence of a new fan, heads nodding in thanks to the resident who provided it, the need to have our cleaner remove all the dead cockroaches littering the floor, and suggestions to make the basement space more useful by installing a sturdy bike rack. Another missile flies overhead. That same horrific screeching sound. This time the explosion that follows seems distant. Somehow, that's more bearable. No one reacts. We're all numb. Some stare blankly ahead. Some watch the dogs. They're busy negotiating the tight space that has absurdly become a twisted version of a dog park. Each has his or her role. My English Cocker Spaniel, overly friendly, is eager to engage. An elderly and aloof poodle, whose fur is whiter than snow, sits on the lap of its owner, presiding like a judge. A very large pit bull, doped up on life-saving steroids, turns away from the others, just wanting to be left alone. Frustrated and snubbed, Belle resorts to nudging the dead cockroaches, wondering if one might flip over and agree to play. She manages to make almost everyone smile. Conversation comes to a sudden halt at the all clear. We're all tired and desperate to go back to bed, hoping to get a bit more sleep before we must, again, run for cover, rinse and repeat. This phase of the war, ironically, started on Friday the 13th. Shortly after I moved to Israel in 1992, I was informed that this date was good luck. I don't buy it. Too many years living abroad have taught me otherwise, and the timing of this new attack has only confirmed that belief. The damage from those Iranian missiles has been like nothing I've seen before. Whole neighborhoods decimated by one sole landing, 1,400 people displaced. Day after day, as the conflict progresses, that adds up to an unfathomably large number of those who no longer have a home. I don't know that many people and have very little family, but I know several who can't go home. That says enough. Of course, these displaced are on top of those tens of thousands who lost their homes in the Gaza envelope in October 2023 and along the northern border in the months that followed. Worst of all, people are dying, many of them while sitting within the rooms defined as safe, where their last seconds were spent certain that this attack was just like any other, perhaps speculating on the kind of mundanities explored all hours of the day and night in my own shelter. For them, the alarm to take cover didn't, after 15 or 20 minutes, lead back to their beds and a short prayer that maybe that would be the last one of the evening. For them, it was an ending. This is scary shit. Concerned that we aren't safe enough, my husband and I forgo the shelter where we felt safe for the last 18 months, the one right in the basement of our building with people we're beginning to know well, and shift to the one across the street. With buildings collapsing, completely disappearing in balls of fire, and instances of people trapped in rubble on the rise, we seek a better option. We all want to survive this war. Directly across from our apartment building is a beautiful plaza, Kikar Habima, one of the gems of Tel Aviv. Beneath it is a 4-story parking structure dug deep into the sandstone on which the city was built. The fact that this space is also nuclear safe adds to its appeal, although until this war, I never dreamed that detail would become germane. Encouraging individuals without a proper shelter, 56% of Tel Aviv's residents, to head to large underground shelters like this one, the municipality has installed a tent city on -4. It's quite something to see. Despite the extra minute added to our run and the melancholy of leaving behind the relationships with our neighbors that have developed primarily because of the last 20 months of conflict, we now view this as the safest option. We won't take any chances. But it's precisely this dire reality, rubbing our faces daily in the horrifying, unbelievable, that has created room for levity. Coffee dates arranged in the middle of the night, toasts made as a whole group comes down to the shelter armed with glasses of red wine, questions regarding who stole the chairs and how they miraculously rematerialized. Early in the war, before we decamp to the public shelter across the street, there's a discussion regarding the safety of our apartment building shelter. When my husband suggests to one group gathered, remember that we are there several times a day, that it's a failure, the response is a communal shrug. No one has a better solution. The discussion that ensues, including a list of reasons we're not safe, borders on the ridiculous. Number one, there's no proper air filtration. The father of 7 points to the fan he brought downstairs from his family's apartment. Number 2, there's no door to absorb the shockwaves set off by a direct attack. A young man stands up and closes the flimsy wood one leading into the second room of the basement. Number 3, the room isn't steel fortified because that wasn't how they built them in 1958. We're all a bit stymied. Although we've managed to laugh the first 2 off, we now realize we're cooked. A serious matter becomes a joke out of necessity. There's the man who asks me at 3 a.m. if he can take the chair I've got my hand on reserved for my husband. I explain that he's gone off to the men's room, but after a moment I add that if he doesn't return, meaning gruesomely ever, it's all his. We exchange an awkward smile. There's the morning I decide to color my hair. It's risky, even bold. I might get caught out by a siren and have to make the difficult decision to survive or be seen in public with a goopy head. I offer a prayer to whoever's listening. Please just give me 1/2 hour to finish up before the next barrage. And then there are the dogs. Tel Aviv is full of them. It feels like there is almost one per household. Even more fun for Belle than the cockroaches in our basement shelter is meeting a group of regulars at the parking lot shelter across the street. There we can take off their leashes and let them run wild. I'm so delighted that she has a community as well. Perhaps she'll miss this when it's all over. There's nothing funny about what's happening here, but the moments we smile and laugh are far greater than those we fear. That is our victory. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Okay, so you may have seen in the on the registration page and in my postings about this that Agi Mishol was supposed to be here. She was unable to make it at the last minute, but Joanna was going to read some of her poems, her wonderful poems. Let me just introduce, for those who don't know who she is. Agi Mishol is one of Israel's most prominent, beloved, and widely read poets. Over the years, she's won practically every literary prize in Israel. And Amos Oz once said that her poems, quote, know how to tell a tale, to sing a song, and also dance. So let me spotlight Joanna. And we'll read some of Agi's poems. And then ask you to unmute. And remove my spotlight. You want me to share my screen now?
Yeah, I'm just reading them in a slightly different order.
Okay.
Yeah. Are
Yeah,
you gonna
tell me which ones
check?
you want. What's your order, and I'll just reshuffle it right now.
Beginning with Safe Room.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I have as the first one.
Okay. So
right, great. I love this poem.
I'll just add while she's putting it on the screen that these poems are written by Agi Mishol, who I've had the great pleasure of working with for a few years now. I've been translating her poetry, and here are some of her most beautiful and, in my opinion, most significant for now. The first one is called Safe Room. I'm not going to embarrass myself by reading it in Hebrew. I'm just going to read the English. Safe Room, Mamad. Now, when death crawls around and pecans push against their shells, I hide inside Hebrew. Nothing will happen to me in innocent writing. Nothing will happen if I am absorbed into the letters, if I stay within the lines, shrunken into a dot above the I, packed inside a P, or the curve of a C, or the two dripping tears of a parenthesis. Beloved holy tongue, now when everything has a time and everything is horror, when the orchard reaches out and the ground is ploughed, I do as Rilke says. I let beauty and terror happen to me without thinking this is final. And the second one I'm going to read is called A Kind of Togetherness. Julie, thank you. Sug shel yachad. A kind of togetherness. I hold my breath to feel the moment when the living yearn to live again. Then I slowly unfurl like trampled grass. We're all lonely, and that too is a type of togetherness. There's always the tale of the boy who lost his way among the trees. And the third one is Hitchhike for a Praying Mantis. Thank you. Looks much shorter on this screen. Hitchhike for a Praying Mantis, Tramp le Gamal Shlomo. He must have got into the car at night, and now I'm taking him from the village to Jerusalem without him knowing anyone there. At the monastery of Latrun, I asked him if he knew his name in English is praying mantis, a praying monk. He turned his small, triangular head toward me and swayed like a Jew at the Western Wall, or a Jew who sways like that anyway. Don't worry, little one, I told him as he sat facing me on the steering wheel. I won't open the windows, and in the evening, I'll take you home. And the last one is called Cabin at the Forest Edge. And I decided to end with this one as a poem of hope, a ray of light, a cabin at the forest edge. Bikta b'kse ya. Not every sleep falls, not every evening descends, and not every old age creeps up. Some doze like peas in their green pods or sprawl with ease on marshmallow clouds. Not every angel terrifies, not every apple poisons, and not every look pierces. Some gather us up from the way we lost and illuminate a cabin at the forest edge. Thank you, everybody, and thank you to Agi, who couldn't be here tonight.
Thank you, Joanna.
My pleasure.
Stop the share for a second. Yeah, I love her poems. I actually also heard a poem recently that I was not written recently, but I heard it recently, and I thought I would read that as well. It's by Zelda, famous Hebrew poet who lived a long time ago. I should have looked up exactly the details. Okay, and the translation that I found, I think, is from Marcia Falk from the Spectacular Difference, Selected Poems of Zelda. This was read by my daughter's school principal at our back to school night, which she opened, of course, talking about the war and the hostages and all of the members of our school community who were lost on October 7th and since. But I like this poem because it also brings some hope, but you'll have to listen to my bad Hebrew and I'll read in Hebrew. Baboker hirharti lo yashuv od kesem hachayim lo yashuv. Pitom babeti hashemesh yishut chayali v'ashulchan asher lav lechem zahav v'perach asher al hashulchan v'hasfalim zahav u'mehayav haya le'etzev gam be'etzev nuga. In the morning, I thought, life's magic will never return. It won't return. Then suddenly in my house, the sun, the living presence for me, and the table with bread upon it, gold, and the flour on the table and the cups, gold. And what became of sorrow? Even in sorrow, there is light. So that concludes the reading of all of the poems. But at the end, for those of you who have been here for other solidarity events, we also say a few prayers. If you are not the praying type, feel free to turn down your volume and jot down some of your own thoughts. But bear with me while I do this, and then we'll open it up to questions and comments. Okay. So this is a prayer for the captives, for the hostages, and please, God, may this be the last time we have to say this, and may everyone be home very, very soon. This version was written by Rav Goren and adopted for our times. Mishberach Avotenu v'imotenu Abraham v'Sara Yitzchak v'Rivka Yaakov Leah v'Rachel v'et Ochamenu Yehoshua David v'Yehuda Dvorah Yael v'Yudit v'Yavarech et Shvuyei v'Nederei Tzahal v'Ezrachim v'Ezrachit v'Chatufim v'Chatufit הנתונים ונתונה בשביה וצרה יהי רצון מפניך אדוני צבאות שתפדה נפשם משבי ותחזירם במהרה לארצם ומשפחתם ולביתם בריאים ושלמים בגופם ובנפשם ותיתן תבונה בלב העמלים ושחרורם ותיתן רחמים בלב שוביהם יקוים בהם הכתוב כל ברמה נשמעני וכי תמרורים רחל מבכה על בניה מענה להנחם על בניה כי איננו כה אמר אדוני מנעי קולך מבכי ועינייך מדמעה כי יש שכר לפעולתך נאום אדוני ושבו מארץ אויב ויש תקווה לאחריתך נאום Adonai ושבו בנים ובנות לגבולם. And that is from the book of Jeremiah, and we actually read that in Haftorah on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, first day, I don't remember. And next we have a Mishaberach for the IDF. Mishaberach Abotenu Avraham Yitzhak Yaakov Yivrach et Chayelot Tzva Hagana Yisrael Ba'omdim al Mishmar Atzenu Va'arei Eloheinu מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה ביבשה באוויר ובים תן אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ויעטר את ניצחון ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם עם אויביכם להושיע אתכם. Amen. And we also have the prayer for the state of Israel. Whoop. Hold on, I just lose the share. I hope you guys are seeing the right thing. אבינו שבשמיים צור ישראל וגואלו ברך את מדינת ישראל ראשית צמיחה גאולתנו הגן עליה בעברת חסדך ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה שריה ויועציה ותקנה בעצה טובה מלפניך חזק את ידי מגני ארץ קודשנו והנחילם אלוהינו ישועה ויתר ניצחון ותעטרם ונתת שלום בארץ ושמחת העולם יושביה ואת אחינו כל בית ישראל נע בכל ארצות פזוריהם ותוליכם מהרה קומיות לציון עירך ובירושלים משכן שמך ככתוב בתורת משה עבדך אם יהיה נדחך בקצה השמיים משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך ומשם ייקחך והביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר ירשו אבותיך וירשת והיטיבך והרבך מאבותיך ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וירא את שמך ולשמור את כל דברי תורתך ושלח לנו מהרה בן דוד משך צדקך לפתות לך כקץ ישועתך והופע בהדר גאון עוזך על כל יושבי תבל ארצך ואומר כל אשר נשמע באפו אדוני אלוהי ישראל מלך ומלכותו בכל משלה אמן סלה. And one last prayer, which is prayer for peace. I spotted this yesterday in shul I was in Highland Park, Illinois. This is from Sidor Lev Shalem and it's composed by Rabbi Natan Sternhaus, who was a disciple of Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, and this was translated and adopted by Jules Harlow. Tefillah l'shalom, Yehi ratzon lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, shetivatel milchamot shfichot damim min ha'olam, v'tashkin shalom ba'olam, ve'lo yisa goy el goy chera, ve'lo yilmudu od milchama, yakiru v'yedu kol yoshvei tevel, shelo banu la'olam b'shvil riv u'machloket, ve'lo b'shvil sinah v'kinah v'kintur v'shfichut damim, רק באנו לעולם כדי להכיר אותך תתברך לנצח ובכן תרחם עלינו וקוים בנו מקרא שכתוב ונתת שלום בארץ ושכבתם אין מחריד ישבתי חיה רעה מן הארץ וחרב לא תעבור בארצכם יגאל כאן ימי משפט וצדקה כנהר איתן כי מלאה הארץ דעה את אדוני כמים לים נכסים. Last thing I just want to show you is you may be familiar with Shoshki Engelmeyer. This is the daily postcard from today. And this is what he posted about it in Hebrew. And I'll just read to you the very quick, let me get out of this one second. I'll just read to you a very quick translation of this. sponsored by ChatGPT. These days are, let me actually share my screen again so you can see the postcard. One sec. These days are turbulent and tense. Will there be an agreement? Will Trump's pressure help? I thought of an idea to illustrate a songbook of optimistic songs, songs that believe in the light at the end of the tunnel, songs of love and longing for all those who will soon be released. The first song in the songbook I wrote was inspired by A Day Will Come, written by Don Almagor and sung by Ruti Navon. I only changed the words a little so they would fit. A day will come, a day of light. No captive will be left behind. A day will come soon to freedom out of the tunnel. A day will come, a day will come. This every person will know in their heart. A day will come, a day will come, a day will come. What shall we call the songbook? Our songs of hope. If you suggest other optimistic songs about the captives' return and the end of the war, I will illustrate them for the songbook. And all the captives return alone, that's alone Ohel. We'll play the songs on the piano and we'll be able to sing them together with the captives and hug them tight. So they'll know how much we miss them. That is, that's basically it. Let me look through the comments. I'll just finish by saying that I am, as I know many of you are, holding on to hope. Looking at the headlines, which was trying not to do for a long time, but a few hours ago, the Times of Israel, had a headline: "All parties eager for a deal to end the war," or as Daniel Gordis put it in his newsletter today, "Could it really happen? A nation holding its breath, almost afraid to hope." So, halavai, we won't be afraid to hope, and this will be the last time we have to say for the captives, certainly. Let me just look through the comments, and if anyone has something they want to say or ask, can raise your hand, and I'll try to look to see if I see anyone's hands raised. I'm going to send around recording and more links tomorrow, of course. Let me just look again, were there any hands up? Well, I want to say thank you very much again to Hannah, to Joanna, to Maxim, to Caroline, and to Agi, who couldn't be here, and to all of you who have been with us. Sorot Tovot, Chag Sameach, and maybe hear good news soon. Thank you again, everyone.